Your image is like getting bigger and smaller.
I'm Dr. Manhattan. I shrink and grow.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. I'll just move based on what happens. Every once in a while, it takes a while, but like I just get inspired and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do a little fan edit. This time, that the HBO Watchmen sequel remix, I believe, is how it was described.
Your doomsday clock standing at 1 minute till midnight.
I loved it. I know a lot of people, there's varying opinions on it, and I think a lot of positive ones. But one of the things I know some people just weren't interested in kind of seeing it, and I wanted to see if I could make a version that even somebody who's not interested in committing 9 hours, that they could watch sort of like a 2-hour movie and get what I thought was like such an emotionally compelling piece of it.
I'm so glad we got this time to know each other better.
For anybody, who enjoys our fan edits or discussions on other pop culture stuff, we would love to see you like, subscribe, all the good stuff. I think I got something. It's not perfect, but it's something.
Oh, big fan of what you did here. For people who do not know, Watchmen is a huge comic. I'm sure you do know if you've clicked on this. I personally haven't read it. All my nerd friends have told me ad nauseum all about it.
Maybe someone's picking off costumed heroes.
I watched the Zack Snyder movie. I did not love it. It had its moments, but I just wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was kind of boring for a movie. And then, this TV show came out, so I'm not super dedicated to the source material, but I did feel like this was an interesting show that asked a lot of interesting questions and had a lot of great moments. And so what I feel like your edit here has done has really distilled kind of the heart and soul of what that was trying to do.
And I appreciate that. This is kind of one of the things we enjoy doing, is talking about these kind of fan edits. And yeah, Watchmen is an interesting one because I've read the comic and seen the Zack Snyder movie, and I don't hate the Zack Snyder movie, but it definitely, he doesn't seem to get some pieces of it. Like, he thinks that everybody's a superhero who wears a mask and can like punch through walls and stuff. That's not really what Watchmen was about. He also, changed the ending pretty dramatically. And just so everyone knows, spoilers from here on out for Zack Snyder's version of Watchmen, the comic book version of Watchmen, the HBO version of Watchmen. We're going to spoil everything. So you're either in or you're out, and that's fine.
Jeez.
The show clearly even didn't kind of poked fun at Zack Snyder's version, because in the in-universe they kind of do this, American hero story, and it's supposed to be this like, lots of voiceover and lots of like violence and
super gritty, super bloody,
super gritty, and it's totally making fun of Zack Snyder's adaptation.
What if that's why someone wants us out of the way?
I tried to keep as much of that as I could, because I think it's fun, to have that sort of thing. But what mine did is, there's this origin story of Hooded Justice, who is a pretty minor character in the comic book. He's like the original masked vigilante, the first one to dress up and fight crime.
What the fuck are you supposed to be?
What I loved about the HBO Watchmen was that they didn't break the comic book world, but they made changes where they could, that made this amazing origin story for Hooded Justice, for who he is. And like, I was like, I just think there's some people, if they don't want to watch 9 hours, but are willing to watch 2, and you want to see this amazing origin story, to me, that's the best of what Watchmen, the HBO version did. Frankie, you watched my version. How about you talk about what did and didn't work, and I'll probably agree, because I think some things were tougher and some things were easier.
I think that's an interesting take for the show, is to pick one of the characters that's kind of like fallen into the background and then given them a certain importance or significance that wasn't known before. I thought that was actually really interesting. Watchmen did that well, and you focused on that, so that reminded me kind of how good it is. Speaking of Dr. Manhattan, that's where I didn't like the show, is in the end, it's like, well, why does he fall in love with Regina King's character? He's not like a human like us. And it's like, why? Because.
The Zeus thing?
He came down from Olympus trying to get laid, but he turned himself into a swan or something to blend in.
Because Regina King, and she's awesome.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Regina King is love her. I love her for sure. But, does it make sense that he comes back from Mars? I don't know. The 7th Cavalry wants to become Dr. Manhattan in the end of the TV show. And my feeling is, yeah, he'll stop being racist instantly if the guy, it doesn't make any sense. So that's where the show fell apart. But what your movie is focusing on is the development of Hooded Justice and kind of Regina King. And you kind of removed all the nonsense, which makes it work more for me.
I actually 100% agree with you that I really wish the ending of the show had the senator guy becoming Dr. Manhattan, but then being like, I stopped caring. I don't care anymore.
Yeehaw! Let's get blue.
It's powerful because the drama, it was well written and the acting is top notch in the show. These are great actors. And Louis Gossett Jr., I mean, I love that guy. It's great to see him in stuff again.
So everybody's clear. Adrian Veidt, other than I think maybe a newspaper, you see a newspaper article about him or something, like Adrian Veidt, not in my version. Cal Abar, for everybody who's seen the show, Cal is in the show, but I never turn him back into Dr. Manhattan. And man, Dr. Manhattan made it so difficult to come up with a good ending. Thematically, I think, workable ending, but like, man, you just kind of have to rush some things together because everything at the end, the last 2 episodes, is very Dr. Manhattan centered. I'm satisfied enough with, I think, what, got some nice thoughts from Frankie and, a couple other people who gave this a watch. And I feel good about, what's there at this point. But yeah, it's kind of like more of like, here's an origin story and there's no like conclusive ending. It's more like, it goes on.
Well, I appreciated your efforts because I know you were trying to like work in like this kind of conspiracy, sort of what you did in your previous fan edit.
Hello there.
Throwing it up there. In the previous fan edit with Star Wars, you kind of crafted a brand new narrative out of the footage that was there. This was harder to do that because so much of the ending has Dr. Manhattan and just unnecessary things to your story. It's more about her and her grandpa, and it's a good route. You're just kind of letting the things they did speak for themselves. Whereas Star Wars, I thought you did a great job of taking the nonsense they had and actually making something out of it.
I had plenty of footage to use, like 9 hours of footage, but the problem is the story I was telling was so specific and it was only really in those 2+ hours. Like there's things I just left out because I didn't think they added to the narrative. And then there's a ton that like actually broke the narrative. You know what I mean? Like, like, oh, it's Dr. Manhattan. It's Lady True. Hooded Justice has teamed up with Lady True. And he knows she's probably evil, but he's fine with it because she's going to, kill all the racists for him and stuff. It was like these things I'm like, I can't. That's.
There's a vast and insidious conspiracy. Have I told you about it? Your head would explode.
Your edit, what it did was really make me appreciate what was working. So like Don Johnson's character, you think he's not racist for the longest time. Well, a few episodes, right?
What are you two talking about that's taking so long?
Oh, nothing. Just the end of the world.
He said, oh, it's coming, tick-tock, tick-tock, just like the 7th Cavalry. A lot of great foreshadowing, a lot of great setups. This show did, whether you think it stuck its landing or not, whether you think it should have even existed or not, there was a lot of love, a lot of attention to detail. A lot of things in your edit reminded me kind of how much planning they went into it and really how much he wanted to live up to the title of Watchmen.
Easily, you could see somebody like, oh, it's going to be a TV sequel to Watchmen. Wow, what a crappy cash grab. But clearly everybody involved wanted to make like a really meaningful, politically driven show, which Watchmen, the comic book, was massively political. This is not like this was some like fun adventure story.
I heard he'd been working for the government. Maybe it was a political killing.
There's not a lot of real good guys. And I actually think that maybe one of the weaknesses of the show is there are kind of distinctive good guys and bad guys, whereas, in the comic book, it was very gray.
Bleach.
Honestly, the first 6 episodes getting up to the, the origin story of Hooded Justice, to me are amazing. I think all that stuff is fantastic. And I think 7 and 8, the episodes 7 and 8 are still great and, just starts moving in a different direction. And then 9 is where, the finale is where it just honestly felt like there could have been an extra episode that it could have, expanded out some of the plots or something. They just went in a direction that it was a little bit unexpected and a little bit, it felt both kind of rushed and also, weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I think the show felt so planned out until the very end. And you can tell that that's where the plan was. The journey
Yeah.
They had planned the journey more than the actual destination. They were just like, in the end, Regina King's going to be God, and that's kind of all we
Right.
have. We're going to make that
Right.
work. But it's
And
really
clearly
about Hooded
that-
Justice and Will, the
Right,
story
right.
of Will,
He's-
which is what you focused on, and that's the best parts of the show.
And that's the thing. Like to me, that was such the emotional core of the show was who is this mysterious old man who has shown up and claims to have killed the chief of police in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost makes my thing into this little mystery, you know, that you then get the full story, you know, by the end of it. And Regina King, you know, is you can't just be like, oh, well, we'll just, you know, just watch the 6th episode of the show and ignore everything else. It's like, well, it really is about like legacy and, you know, kind of taking on a mantle and the scars of that, like the emotional scars of that and everything.
When I put it on, you felt what I felt?
Anger.
What I wanted to concentrate on is like, could you tell the story? It's just Regina King's, you know, learning about this long lost relative who has this legacy that she has to grapple with. Yeah, and I think like even if somebody's not interested in Watchmen the TV show, I mean, I guess even if you're not that interested in Watchmen the movie, the comic, whatever, I still think this is like a fun little, you know, there's so many pieces of history. Like I actually called the movie, you know, this is the Bass Reeves cut of Watchmen. There's this you know movie hero from the show. It's based on a real Oklahoma marshal named Bass Reeves, who's like the Black Marshal of Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
And this is real. That opening of the show and of my movie is like, yeah, it's like haunting stuff. But to find out also that Bass Reeves is actually probably where the Lone Ranger came from. This is the Bass Reeves cut of Watchmen, the TV show into a movie.
Well, and I again, I've said it's some of the best stuff. I really like it. I will say, you are missing Adrian Veidt, which is some of the best scene chewing I've seen in the longest time. Jeremy Irons is amazing. So I think Watchmen the show
Chewing
is
that scenery.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like I think like interesting like what the fuckness kind of going on, and and the soundtrack, which is of course present in yours. There's some interesting like there's a lot of good fun stuff in Watchmen.
I have a surprise for you.
I would recommend anybody, like if you're like, oh, I'm kind of on the fence on Watchmen, maybe I'll just watch your cut instead of like, no. Like, I would recommend anybody who has any passing curiosity watch Watchmen. I think it's one of the better TV shows to come out in the last several years. And it's worth it. Like, even if we think that the ending didn't quite stick it, those first 6 to 8 episodes are so strong. The performances, the music, the direction, the way that it clearly loves the graphic novel, you know, despite it kind of playing with things and poking some holes, poking some fun, you know, at adaptations along the way. Like, oh yeah, there's so much that isn't in my version that's amazing. It just didn't fit.
It's trying to do something. Whether that works for you or not, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, yeah, there's moments in history that I think it's shining a light on that I think are very, you know, powerful. And you know, whether it's like for that alone and for the fact that like it clearly loves the comic Watchmen, and it might not be a take that everybody loves. Like, I think Zack Snyder also didn't get the point of the comic Watchmen because he thinks that Rorschach's the good guy.
The world will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll whisper, "No."
And I don't think Rorschach was the good guy. I think Rorschach's a psychopath. You know,
the point is there isn't really a good guy. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Soon all the whores and race traitors will shout, "Save us," and we will whisper, "No."
Could Rorschach inspire a whole collection of you know, racist, you know, crazies, you know, 20, 30 years later? Yeah, I could see that happening. His writing, his little journals kind of, you know, messed up stuff. He's got some messed up opinions and
Well,
views
and
on
I
the world.
think I'm sure a lot of people saw that and like, oh, you're saying Rorschach is this person, and it's like, no, he's a
No.
mentally kind of ill,
Yep.
disturbed person
Yeah.
who has
He's a
good,
disturbed person.
road to hell is paved with good
Yeah.
intentions, and he does
Right.
have good
Right.
intentions, but like the
Sometimes.
ramblings of like a slightly off for
Right.
madman can
Yeah.
inspire people to do
Yeah.
horrible things. So it's not that he would be necessarily be a Seventh Cavalry,
Yeah.
or even
Right.
condone it
But
necessarily.
he rants about like letting all the liberals and the whores and the everybody die because they're I mean like he's got a lot of hate for a lot of
Yeah.
people, like hate towards women, hate towards like anybody who doesn't have like his brand of conservatism, and like the sort of like rag that he sends his memoirs to is this sort of right-wing fringe, almost like the Breitbart of its day, in the Watchmen universe. So like to me, it's like the least stretch to think that like these conspiracy theorist racist people would like glom onto to Rorschach's views on the world and sort of expand on them.
And the streets of Tulsa will turn into extended gutters, overflowing with liberal tears.
Well, I know a lot of people got mad at Watchmen for being woke. The scene in the beginning of your movie with the cop pulling over the guy or whatever, I like how the Watchmen actually makes fun of how extreme liberalism can go.
Yeah.
Like where
Yeah,
the guy
sure.
can't even get access to his gun to protect himself because we're hand holding everything so much, and everything has to go through a bureaucracy just to make one decision.
Right.
Like that isn't necessarily the right way either, if lives are on the line. And so I don't know, I think the show tries to do its best in skewering what it can skewer. I think everybody should go and watch it. You should definitely watch Chris's video, and you should definitely like, subscribe, and comment. Leave them, let us know what you think, and if there's something you want us to cover or fan edit in the future, let us know, and we will catch you on the next one.